All right, we got one more interview with you. This is really, really good. Caitlin Sutherland, you've heard her here a number of times talking about corruption, in particular foreign money, and how it's made its way into progressive leftist politics, influencing campaigns, ballot initiatives, the larger ecosystem, something we've had an eye on forever, and I know a lot of you have too. So listen to this. Well, you've heard her here before on Ruthless, and she's sort of our go-to on exposing public corruption all over the country. And they've got a bunch of new stuff going on. Caitlin Sutherland, Americans for Public Trust. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you got it. Sounds like you got a bunch of breaking stuff that you're working on. Our previous conversations focused a lot on foreign money, working its way through the nonprofit world, having a material impact on elections, changing election law, all this sort of dark underworld of the left and how they've been sort of funding this network. But you've taken it out in the States now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, Americans for Public Trust, we've always been working at, uncovering how much politics is influencing our public policy. And what we have discovered that it's, foreign dark money that is influencing our elections and our politics. And that's what we've been working on, is how to stop the foreign funding of elections once and for all, and especially how to stop the foreign funding of ballot issues.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Which is shocking at some level that we have to have this conversation. But it's something that's been pervasive. And I remember, one of the last times you were here, you had like this big web, this big map of all the various places where foreign funding has gone and how it's sort of impacted elections in many ways. And from a federal government standpoint, I think people have gotten their arms wrapped around that. You've done a lot of good work to get Congress's attention on a bunch of it. But it's not just happening there. It's in the States and everywhere else. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. So, just, quick, to back up just a little bit, the foreign nationals cannot influence our elections. Right. That's simple. That's been law for about 40 years. Pretty basic. Yeah. It's one of the basic, tenets of our law that foreign nationals can't influence our elections, right? Most, Americans also agree with that. So it's one thing that we can all agree on, that foreign nationals should not be influencing our elections. But the key in that is, what does the word elections mean? Well, it's really pretty limited. It's candidate elections, meaning that foreign nationals can't fund
campaigns.
They can't fund candidates. They can't fund committees. They can't fund super PACs. Well, gee, we all have worked in campaigns. There's so much that matters up to and including on Election Day that doesn't really fit in one of those nice little campaign buckets. So what we've had and what we've seen, through my crazy webs that you've seen, is that foreign money is coming in and influencing all these different vehicles that are election related, but not elections. So one of those being ballot issues, right? So that is what we have been working on, the state and federal level, is to close that loophole. It's pretty simple. If you're a foreign national, you can't influence elections. Don't you think you shouldn't be able to influence ballot issues either? Yeah. Luckily, states have caught on. There's been huge momentum across the country. And as of today, 4 states just this year have passed a ban on the foreign funding of ballot issues.
Yeah, and I know you've been in these states over the last couple of months. I know you had success in my home state of Ohio last November. Can you tell us a little bit about how that fight is going on the state level?
Yeah, so Ohio was an amazing state to work with. They saw that their ballot issues were being corrupted by foreign money. Over $20 million in foreign-backed funds.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yep, made its way into Ohio. But legislative leaders in Ohio, they fought back. They said no more. They stepped up and they passed one of the strongest and most comprehensive bans on the direct and indirect foreign funding of ballot issues. And many states across the country, including Kansas, Wyoming, Kentucky, and Indiana, have followed suit this year and passed their own ban.
I mean, it only makes sense if you think about it. The funny thing, in the states where there are really active ballot initiatives, I mean, it's one thing to ban, as we all agree, ban foreign money in direct campaigns for elected officials, but they also have to adhere to the laws of the ballot initiatives that are ultimately on the ballot that don't have the same conformity. I mean, I imagine when you drop into some of these state houses and have this conversation, people are sort of dumbfounded by how much has actually occurred already.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take, for instance, Ohio, and let's just, explain what is a ballot issue. Folks may not even know that, well, I go in and I vote for or against it on election day. Why wouldn't it be covered in the ban for foreign nationals can influence our election? So it's a huge loophole. But these ballot issues, while, an important part of direct democracy, oftentimes, if you're at the grocery store, if you're in the Midwest, you're at Meijer, you're at Publix, you're in Florida, and someone says, would you like to sign this petition to get this, public policy on the ballot? But most of the times, it is the most far left extremist version of public policy, because let's take Ohio, they're not going to vote for, to pass some of these laws. So what they're doing is they're sidestepping the legislative process, and they're picking the most far left radical policies. And we've been able to trace all the different states that this foreign funding has come in. And it is some extreme versions. We're talking about, abortion, no limits, codify it,
right.
Radical changes to election policy, forced gerrymandering, like what they wanted in Ohio, Oregon, let's just decriminalize basically every single drug.
Right.
That's so Oregon, right?
Yeah.
So, but also at the same time, what they're doing is they're targeting states with these concurrent contested elections. So take, for instance, John Tester was on the ballot last November, and they said, well, if we put abortion on the ballot with John Tester,
they're trying to codify the law.
Yeah, and
basically.
they try to, get them across the finish line. So it's a very targeted, very cohesive weaponization of these ballot issues on the left. And they're using foreign money to do it.
It also appears pretty strategic from these other foreign power players. And we always like to talk about our border problem in the context of people flowing in across the Rio Grande. But the border problem extends to money flowing in from countries that actually do not like us very much. We talked about elections, and you're working on the elections thing. I know you guys also put out a big study about the billions and billions of dollars that are flowing into our universities, schools like MIT, Carnegie Mellon, Stanford. These are schools that are producing the top engineers of the next generation in our country, people who are going to work on sensitive, like public works projects. And not for nothing, they also have big contracts from DOD and from the government. And so that is a problem that to me, it seems like a huge, huge problem that foreign countries are influencing our universities. And I don't think it's a coincidence that our universities have gone off to the left side at the same time as this money's flowing in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another area where we've been, tracing all the money, when it comes to ballot issues, we've been able to trace, that a foreign national has given, Hans-Jörg Wyss, I know we love to talk about him here, has given $280 million to the 1630 fund, and they've turned around and spent $130 million in 25 states. So much money. Now,
Crazy.
ready for some more scarier numbers? What's going on with our colleges and universities? We were able to trace that $60 billion with the B, dollars has come from foreign sources into our colleges and universities. And yeah, as you said, it's coming to these top research institutions, the Ivy Leagues, Harvard, MIT, Columbia, and you think, well, what's going on at all these universities? Well, they're losing their federal funding because, they're breeding grounds, for, these anti-Semitic rallies. They are harboring hate around campus. And by the way, they are, the top recipients of this foreign money, a lot of it from adversarial countries. China, Qatar, you name it. They're flowing into the universities.
It also explains a lot of the animosity that some of these colleges and universities have towards just sort of basic American values, right?
Yeah.
There's been so many times over the last 6 months where I've looked at whether it's how they've handled the Hamas protests or just, kind of basic American value type stuff where they've come down either wishy-washy or on the other side of it, and you're like, how the hell did they land in that spot? Well, I don't know. If you do a little accounting according to your work, turns out that they have a pretty significant incentive to see it maybe not our way.
Oh, yeah. So, this foreign money, we all know that foreign money is buying influence, and this foreign money is buying influence on these college campuses. And we can see a direct correlation between the universities that are getting this foreign money and what's influencing, particularly money coming from the Chinese, right? That foreign money can buy access to research, and can buy access, just for influence over student bodies, have them sway, be a little bit more sympathetic to Hamas rather the United States. So when you lay it out and you start tracking it, it's a huge problem. The good news is that because all this foreign money is coming in through all these various ways, be it elections and ballot issues and colleges and universities, Congress actually stepped up a few weeks ago, and they actually, in the House, passed legislation that would, fix some of the foreign money coming into colleges and universities. So while it is, very problematic, when you hear these numbers and you see what this foreign money is doing, it's good to know that legislative leaders are working on reforms to stop it once and for all.
Well, and that's part of the thing that you guys do better than anybody is, one, flagging and making people aware of something that, frankly, most people wouldn't be. Unless you got the maps out and did the string thing with the beautiful
it's like 78 tabs right now, I think, open on my computer. So, yeah.
But you're also providing some idea of how you fix this sort of thing. And I think really sort of consensus ideas that should have wide bipartisan support.
Yeah. It's not so much talk about an issue, right? It's very important to do public education and, issue advocacy and awareness. But, where we really started to see, a change in the momentum is when you can actually have a solution. So it's not so much as, foreign money is bad, you should probably stop the foreign money. It's just like, well, how do I do that? And so that's why we've been, testifying in state houses across the country, as well in Congress, to work with very common sense, meaningful reforms that close all these loopholes that allow foreign money into our institutions.
And all this money ultimately employs a cottage industry of the progressive left, right? I mean, it's one thing to have an agenda and try to execute it in incredibly nefarious ways, which we have seen and we've just talked about. But they also just have like a standing set of organizations across the country that just continue day after day at trying to have this progressive left agenda that basically nobody would agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah. And think at the same time, the left is the one railing against outside money, the so-called dark money. It's just like, hello, you've got foreign money backing your little prop-up groups all around town to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, yet nobody wants to talk about it. Right. And that is what is really, really alarming, is the silence. And I'm talking about you, Sheldon Whitehouse. Like no one is talking about how the left is propped up by this foreign money. Everybody always likes to complain about the right's dark money, but I like to channel one of my former colleagues who Chris Winkleman once told me that if you talk about dark money on the right, you must talk about dark money on the left. And it's not only the left's dark money, it's foreign dark money, which can be regulated, and the states are taking action, and they're absolutely rejecting the notion of foreign interference in their states.
It's such good work. It's such important work. So what's next? You just keep working through the states, ensuring that there's, one, transparency, that everybody knows the problem, trying to pass legislation where it's capable.
Yeah, we're passing, hopefully, Arkansas this week should be heading to the governor's desk to sign their own ban on the foreign funding. We're actively working, with Missouri, Montana, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Tennessee, probably forgetting a lot of states. There's been so much momentum that these states are taking in their own hands to close this foreign influence loophole once and for all. And we're also very excited that Congress should act as well.
Yeah, it's great. You got to feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, it's great seeing legislative change. And let me tell you guys, the states move fast. Yeah. It is so much. It has been a sprint, these legislative sessions, because they only have weeks at a time. So while we're very hopeful that Congress will close these various foreign influence loopholes as well, it has been great to partner with the states to see the legislative action very quickly. I mean, 4 as of this year is really, really unheard of. Yeah. So they've been great partners on the states. It's a winning issue, and, just Donald Trump, even a couple weeks ago, in his executive order, said to prioritize this, that in his executive order said, we should reject the notion that we should influence, that foreign nationals should be influencing our elections, and even mentioned this issue of ballot measures.
That's the old belt and suspenders approach, which you guys do better than anybody. Americans for Public Trust, where can people find out more?
We can check out our website at americansforpublictrust.org. We're on X at apublictrust.
That's awesome. Caitlin Sutherland, thank you so much for coming back in. Welcome anytime. Anytime you get new developments, come on back. Let us all know. We've been following this for a long time. Very important to the program.
Great. Well, thank you guys.